You're listening to the Current Plays Podcast, Season 3, Episode 21, Creature Caravan. And now please welcome your hosts, Jordan and Thomas. And welcome back, our wandering listeners. This week we are talking about Creature Caravan, a game designed by Ryan Laukat and, of course, published by Red Raven Games. This is not really a combo making game. I guess a kind of a hand management game.
Sort of like a tableau builder almost kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
almost like a tableau builder. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, where you're taking a caravan across a landscape.
Yeah, yeah. So it definitely takes the place in the land of Arzium, which is where a lot of I
Yes.
guess like a portion of Ryan Laukatt's game that's his world, or one of his worlds, I suppose, right?
Right, yeah.
So Above and Below, Near and Far, Now or Never, those are all games in the Arzium world. And I think they just released two. They just kickstarted that like a role-playing game in the world as well.
Nice.
So yeah, kind of neat. Not that we play role-playing games anymore, but even outside of that, if you were into kind of like lore stuff for his world, that'd be kind of a cool jumping in point to be like, oh, I wonder what's in this book, and read
Yeah,
that up
because
kind of thing,
there's
right?
a lot of really neat creatures and races and
Yeah,
different
yeah.
he's the world building he's done for these games is pretty incredible.
He's got his own like flavor kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So and you can see it across his games. So then this is another one where you kind of say, oh, okay, this is a neat little design, not super complex, but I feel like he does well in this sort of like medium light, maybe medium some of his stuff kind of area, right? Like this is his jam, right?
Yeah.
He's no super heavy thing like Vital Lacerda kind of thing when we talked about On Mars, but definitely in this and it's a nice space to be in. Not that that's a complaint at all for saying, oh, heavy's better. No, no, no. These can be pretty excellent games.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean in this one you're gaining cards and then trying to use those cards to boost your actions basically, right? And again, not really find combos, but find you're finding
Yeah, synergies between them kind of thing. Yeah.
synergies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cards that give you points for keywords, and you're trying to find those keywords and abilities that boost your abilities. But what I like is that any cards that you don't need, you can turn in for resources.
Yeah, that's a really cool touch. Because I find like, especially in this one, like resources are really tight. So okay, so you need food to hire these or at least to bring along these travelers with your caravan across the land, right? And I'll talk about more about the theme in a minute, but so food is a resource, right? So needing extra food to be able to feed the travelers that are going to travel with you is something that you're trying to do, right? And in order to do that, there's only one spot on your sort of player board that has food production, right? And if you relied on that only, it would take multiple turns to save up enough food to hire some of the kind of more beneficial, I guess, travelers that can join you. So yeah, so having this little other aspect of, okay, I'm going to draw more cards and then use those cards to trade in for food, and that way I can get more food, or if you want, you can trade them in for gold, which you can then trade in for food as well, or you can trade into other as resources for other members that might join the party as well too, right? So yeah, a lot of I like that as well. I think that's pretty neat to do that, and it makes for a lot of interesting decision making where you're kind of much of the game is spent going, do I want to keep this card or do I want to get rid of this card for a resource? Or this is a really good card, but like also have to play this other card in my hand. And I can't afford to do that. And if I could get this card out this turn and I only need one more food, that would be really good. But then I have to give up this other really good card, right? So a lot of those decisions sort of get made along the way. And it's a very this one's very tight. Okay, so to kind of jump in a little bit too. So you have, I believe, 12 turns in total. You start with 12 tents, and you have a grid pattern board that essentially you're moving from left to right, and there are I think 25 spaces.
25.
Yeah,
Yeah.
till you get to the city of, and here's my one gripe. I don't know how to pronounce the city. Eastray? I don't know. It's a city that's been in multiple of these games in the Arzium, so it's a big city in the Arzium world, I suppose. But I don't know how to say it. So, so there's my one gripe. That's not a true gripe, but you know. So left to right across it, but you only have these 12 turns, and each turn you're placing down a camp as you're resting along the way, right?
Mhm.
Um, so if you can imagine, like trying to move across that board and only having a spot that, you know, on your player board, in your initial player board that collects two food, and then some of these travelers that might come with you can cost upwards of like 13 food. Uh, I mean, that's that's a number of turns right there. You're looking at 6 turns to get 12 food if you don't have any sort of trade-in value, right? Um, so yeah, a lot of thought that goes into how you want to play those turns. So sometimes you might have, like I said, you might have that good card, but it's just worth more as one food to get out another good card a turn early or something. And maybe that, I'll put a perfect example in our game that we played the other day. You start the game with 5 dice, and then you roll those dice at the start of a turn. And what I like to is that this game is played simultaneously. So you roll the dice together, and then you're placing your own dice, right? So each of you have 5 dice, you roll them, and you place them how you want. And each location on your board is going to require a certain number on the die or more. So it might be like a 3 up or a 4 up or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Um, so as you are taking these actions, and some of them are movement, and some of them are gaining you food or other sort of resources, you're spending those dice, and once you use up your 5 dice, that's it. Your round is over, right? And you're waiting for the next round. So I had a card in my opening hand that added one additional die as soon as I got it out. So as soon as you get it out, you get to roll the die and use it for the remainder of the game, right? So the other 11 rounds, if I got that out turn one, I'd have an extra die. And that's massive. Like that's a huge in any game where you're adding, you know, say extra workers, that's essentially an extra worker that you have above what your opponent gets to spend, right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
basically worker placement with dice as
Dice.
workers, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you need certain strengths to take certain actions.
Yeah, yeah. So pretty early on, like I had the card in the opening hand, and then I think it was round two maybe that I was able to play that card. And it cost 13 food, so like I had to raise 13 food starting from 0 food in 2 turns, right? Which was hard to do, but it came down to okay, I'm gonna trash most of the cards in my hand, even though they were good cards.
Yeah.
And then I think I played a different card first. It was a card that allowed me to earn more food. So it was a 5 up, but then I'd get 3 food. So there's a few common, like very early on, I had that card, I had the food producing one, and I had one that allowed me to copy an action from
Yeah.
one of my other actions, right? So it was a weird sort of randomization of cards that I happened to get those three. And just the way that I played it, like I played the one where I could get copy an action first. So then I was getting double the food. And then once I was able to get the 3 food out, then I was getting, six food plus the two spots, so eight food in a turn. And then, if I was drawing more cards, I could get rid of those cards to generate more food. And then by turn two or turn, round two or round three, I had that extra die for the rest of the game, right? Um, and it wasn't,
Yeah,
I
it's
think,
huge.
well, huge, huge. And I want to say you picked up another die, probably what, like around round six or seven or something like that.
Yeah, I'd say it was more middle of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I
like,
too like I went also for like a food strategy. I wasn't doing it as well as you. I managed to get throughout the game three, well, I got one card that gave me a food and a coin, and
mhm,
then like two more cards that gave me two food. And I had them for like lower die values. So the one on your player board is five. It takes a five or a six to get those two foods. So,
yeah,
getting that with like a three is pretty good. But you're still getting two food for one worker, right? Whereas Thomas, you had three food for one worker, and then you could copy that, which was crazy.
yeah.
Um, so you know, the one thing about this game that you have to be aware of is it is really a multiplayer solitaire game. So
Very
I
much
mean,
so.
I like that. I'm perfectly fine with that. Some people aren't, but definitely, I'm doing my thing and look over, I don't know, a third of the way through the game and just kind of, oh yeah, you got a couple of really cool things going on there. But I didn't really, and not that it would have mattered. That's the thing. Like, even if I'd seen that you had so much more of a food engine than me, it doesn't really matter because
Yeah.
that doesn't affect my strategy. And as like mine isn't going to affect yours.
There's no like there's zero player interaction in this one, right? So there regardless of what I was doing or what you were doing, I couldn't affect what you were doing, and you couldn't affect
Yeah.
what I was doing. Like there was not, other than, there's a market board and there's a Ember Zombie board where you can, if Ember Zombie, you can fight an Ember Zombie. Market board, you can trade resources in for food and end game points. And the Ember Zombies will give you end game points too when you defeat them. So the only real player interaction is each player can only go to each of those specific locations on the market, and there's like, 12 spots in the market, and I think it ends up being 24 spots because there's for gold, and then there's for satchels, and they're two different markets on the same board. And then there's the Ember Zombie, which is like 12 spots on there as well. So each player can go to each of those locations only once. However, once somebody goes there once, it's timed in two rounds that closes down, and the other person, if they haven't gone there, they can no longer get there, right? So if you're, taking up a spot, say it's I trade in five gold for whatever. Two turns later, if you have that five gold and you go to make that trade, you no longer can make that trade. You have to either do the four gold or the six gold, whatever's, free of those ones, right? So I mean,
Hmm.
it's very minor. It may come up a little bit on the Ember Zombie because, especially early on when you're trying to battle those Ember Zombies, the die rolls there, I think the lowest one is like a five, and then the next is a six. So unless you have some sort of generation of higher numbers, because the highest you can roll on a die is six, um, it's hard to get it's hard to defeat the Ember Zombies that require a higher combat score. So like as soon as you get to seven, well, you need to have another location to play a die where you can boost your dice, plus one or something, or plus two to make that seven, right? Put a six on there and make it a seven, right? So that really, it's very minor, the interaction, but it absolutely, you nailed it up, the nail on the head there, with it being solo or solitaire. basically.
Multiplayer
Yeah, multiplayer
solitaire.
solitaire. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Um, to that too, but you're right though. Like I don't mind that at all. Um, and we are good enough friends that like we don't have to like sit and fill a room with conversation while we're playing the entire time. We can
Yeah, yeah.
sit and let each other kind of like get into the mental space to kind of, and if it's quiet, it's not like, oh, this is weird kind of thing, right? So
Right.
yeah, like
Yeah, some turns we were just doing our thing, and other turns we were like, "Oh, okay, I'm doing this, and then I'm doing
mhm.
that." Just kind of talking out our turns, making sure that we're both doing things right, and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, it's cool.
And I'll be honest, yeah, no, I like there was a few times where like kind of like I finished up and I looked over and you were taking a few turns and I was just kind of like, this is kind of nice. Like we're just hanging out, we're relaxing, we're playing a game together kind of thing, doing our own things, but it was just like, laid back, sort of just a chill vibe kind of thing, right? So
Yep, yep,
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I like this game for that. But if you're looking for like a multiplayer game where you're going head to head, you do to a degree, but it's also like you're really just competing to see how high you can get your score based on the
yeah,
tableau you kind of build, right?
yeah,
So, and you're really beholden to many of the cards that pop up, right? I had some pretty, you know, strong cards come up early on, right? And it to the point where like my initial hand, I was like, okay, there's some good stuff here, and then I drew the first turn, and I was like, oh, I can make some crazy like synergies between these cards right off the bat. So then it was like
yeah,
at first I had planned, okay, I'm going to keep this card and this card and this card and build something here. And then it totally changed based on just that card with the copying ability coming out. And I was like, okay, now I'm getting rid of the cards that I was initially going to keep just so that I could get these cards out faster, right? Um, and that was neat. That was cool. But at the same point, it was like it could easily you ended up with those and I didn't get those. You know what I mean? Like or
yeah,
it was
yeah.
just a randomized. The deck is like this big, which is about like if you're obviously if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see me, but it's like I don't know, 4 inches size deck
It's
kind
a
of
big
thing. So
deck.
it's a big big deck, yeah. Um yeah, so like typically too in the past when we've played this game, we've never gone through the full deck, but we actually both had strategies that sort of like drew lots of cards this time. So
Yeah,
we actually made it through the entire deck this time, which was pretty impressive to do actually. Yeah, we were cycling a lot of cards. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like early on, I I had a lot of good cards, but like I had a lot of good machine cards, which usually focus on movement.
Hmm.
And then I had some like production cards with some cool abilities on them. And I had to make a choice, right? I'm like, okay, I could go with the machines and focus on movement because every column that you move across this landscape earns you a point. And then if you get all the way to the end, it's an extra 5 points. So, there's 25 columns, that's 25 points. Plus, if you do that one more to Eastery, that's
Yeah.
30 points, which nothing to shake a stick at. Um, I decided to go a different way. And then I ended up like with this card needed five of these keywords, but then, the one that had that keyword was really good, but it required four other keywords and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And I kept trying to satisfy all of them, and I actually managed to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
You did impressively well with the cards that you had. Yeah. Yeah.
and you have a card limit. So like a limit of followers basically of 12. That seems to be a magic number in this game.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I got one card that said any card that has the tiny keyword, you ignore it for your limit. So then, that was it. I was like locked into that strategy. I'm like, I'm gonna put down more cards, like as many cards as I can to get those points. But sadly, a lot of those cards ended up being negative points just
Yeah,
because
yeah.
some of them are negative points and I needed the keywords on them. So, and I'm like, I'll make it up, I'll make it up. But you, with all your bread was or food, I guess, you were drawing lots of cards and then playing like these big point earners, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, that's it's a really neat aspect of this game. So the like you said, as you travel across, you're getting points for moving, you're getting points for placing your tents in unique spots. So like you can stay in a location and place multiple tents per like each turn you'll place one tent. So you can place tent after tent on the same spot if you don't move, obviously. Uh, but it's worth less points if you do that, right? Because each unique spot you put a tent, you'll also earn a point for. So like there is a lot of points for traveling the board, right? Moving across, even if you don't go all the way across and you can move vertically and drop tents that way, like there's a lot of points you can earn just doing that, right? But the majority of points, the like big point scoring points where you're going to get the most is these travelers that are coming with you in your caravan because each of them will have some sort of okay, they're either going to be really good at producing resources or have some sort of special ability like your tiny thing. That's really good. And then they're probably not worth that many points. Maybe 1 to 4 points or something like that, right? Or they'll have like a really large point number, like 8 or 11 or 13, some of them, right? However, in order to unlock those, you have to have other travelers with specific keywords, right? And those keywords, I think there's something like 12 different keywords, for, like
that would make
shy,
sense.
and yeah, 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 exactly.
Magic
12
number.
again,
Yeah.
deadly and nocturnal and all these toad folk, whatever, right? So all these different, actually, toad folk, I don't think is a keyword, but it is a race.
Focus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
folk is, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're trying to collect these keywords based on the cards that give you big points, right? And you're right. I had some, and here's where it was mine ended up again working out in my favor is, I had one card that I needed to collect three nocturnal creatures or characters for 8 points, and I had another character that had to collect four nocturnal characters. So
Yeah.
those synergize perfectly, right? And one was worth 8, the other was worth 11. And it was like, yeah, okay, I'm already working to get nocturnal ones. And each of those ones also were nocturnal as well. So it was like, I only
Oof.
actually now, after those two, only have to get two more, right? And then I had two of them that were looking for shy. So it was like 8 points each for shy ones and then they mesh it, right? So I did end up maxing out my 12 creatures following this caravan. But I had a number of them that just all helped each other out and were looking for the same keywords, right? So I scored like something like 59 points or something crazy like that, just based on having these cards that I think I had one negative card, and the only reason I kept it in was because it had like three keywords that triggered each of the other ones, right? And I was like, oh, it
Yeah.
just ties all of them together.
Yeah.
And it was only worth like -2 points or something like that, or -1. So it was like
Yeah.
barely a negative. Yeah. But yeah, that was cool. And then I looked over at yours, and as we were playing, I was looking over and I was like, holy, like, there's 12, there's 13, there's 14. Like, you just kept having more and more cards down. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I'm going to get hammered based on how many of these cards you have. But yeah, at the end, when we were counting it up and we looked over and it was like, oh no, you needed shy here, and then this one needed deadly, and then this one needed nocturnal, and then this one, and there was none that matched up. You just weren't
Yep.
drawing the same ones, right? And I was like, oh, again, if you had my draws, like it would have been a totally different story, right? So
Yeah, yeah. But I love the the constantly reevaluating what you have in your hand and deciding what's important, what I can get played, when it can get played. Like, how many turns does it take? That's a big deal because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
only get 12.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because
So,
yeah, you're absolutely right. That you can't play everything.
yeah,
And it oftentimes comes down to like, oh, yeah, of course I'm going to play this card, and then a few turns later you go, I still haven't played this card, and I
yeah.
don't think I'm going to now. Yeah,
I
I just
think
don't have the time for it. Yeah.
I think every time I play, I get like a giant
Yeah.
that takes like 12 or 13 bread to play, but will give you something amazing like a die and then stuff on top of that. But again, you go, okay, well, I can save up and play this giant, or I can play this smaller card for 5 bread, but it gives me bread, right? And I always go, okay, well, then that'll help me get to the giant.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then that takes a couple of turns to put out. And that because you're holding onto that giant, so you're not spending it for bread. But then you go, okay, well, I want to draw more cards so that I can discard them for food. I'm going to say bread and food
Yeah. Yeah.
interchangeably here.
Yeah.
But then when you draw those cards and you see other cards, you're like, ooh, this is good. Well, I can't discard this. I got to save this. And then that giant just keeps getting pushed back, keeps getting pushed back, keeps getting pushed back. And then eventually you're like, I should have just turned this in turn one
Yeah.
and I would have
Yeah.
been so much further ahead. Like, but
Yeah, and without fail, yeah, it
yeah,
happens every time when you're like, okay, I'm my strategy right here is to draw cards. I'm going to spend these, two dice, draw two more cards or three more cards, and then I'm just going to trade them in for food. You draw those cards, you go, that's a really good card. I can't get rid of that one. But then I gotta wait a turn to be able to, draw another card to get rid of it. So it's
yeah.
yeah, every game it happens multiple times, right?
But I think that's the fun of it,
It is,
The
it is. Yeah,
the
absolutely. Yeah.
that decision space is where this game lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just kind of like you have to realize, yeah, I can't do it all. And I love this card, but it's gotta go. Like I need the food more than anything, right? So
Yep. Yep.
I don't know
Oh
if my
man.
kids are coming through on the mic at all, but
No.
I can hear them, and I'm going, oh, I wonder if this is yeah. This is a good one though. I really enjoy this one. I'm looking off to it because I got it on the side here. But yeah, the other aspect to it too is just like as you're traveling too with the each spot along the board can be various terrain, right? You have like
Yes.
plains and lakes and mountains and stone, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Canyons, I think is the other one.
Right.
Um, but each one like requires specific sort of movement. And sometimes that's hard because, yeah, like you said, either you can get these machine cards that allow you to traverse specific types. Sometimes all four, those are great cards, but usually are worth
Right.
less points at the end.
Or
So
they need a 6.
or they need a six, something that's really difficult to get, right? So you're like, you're trying to put together sort of a combination of cards that you can maybe you can't manage all the different terrain types, but you can manage enough that you can like scoot around the board a bit. You can't move
Hmm.
diagonal unless you have specific cards that say you could do so. So sometimes you're up against a mountain and you're like, I can't climb over mountains. So I'm sort of stuck unless, there's one spot on your player board where you can spend two ones, so one or more
Yeah.
to move on. But that's two dice, right? Like
Hmm.
that's an expensive movement. But if you haven't moved that turn and you need to move that turn, sometimes that's the way to do it, right? Or else you're down a point, you're down movement, and with only having 12 turns to get across 25 spots,
Yeah, because if you're moving vertically, you're not moving across, so you're losing out on those points, right?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. And then yeah, and it just becomes trying to manage all that. And I really like how this game generally starts off and usually has this kind of trajectory of few things here. So A, you're playing cards that are usually worth less points, but give you some sort of resource generation or something, some sort of benefit. For example, the food ones early on, right? You'll place those ones, and then later on, you're placing cards that are big point scorers based on um, the different keywords, right? So it's got that sort of thing. When do you migrate from or generating resources to now I'm really searching the deck for keywords so I can maximize the points of my keywords, right? So that's a trajectory you're doing, but at the same time you have this trajectory of like movement across the board. You at the start of the game, and I always like to do this like my first turn, I don't move off the first spot. I stay there to save the die and I leave a tent on that first location, right?
Hmm.
And then so you the first few turns you have like very minimal movement. Maybe you don't move or you move one spot, and then the next turn you move one spot, and the next turn you made two spots, and then by the end you're like, okay, we only have like four turns left. This turn I move four or five squares across kind of thing, right? Because at that point you have some sort of abilities. I had one card that allowed me to I could go over the mountains and plains with this one card. But if I had two other nocturnal cards in addition to this one, actually two other if I had two nocturnal and this card was nocturnal, so I only really needed one more. I could move twice whatever I took that action, right? So I had that plus the planes on my board, and that was like three. And then if I copied something, I could move four. And it was like, and then not only that, like if I copied the move over any location kind of thing, then it all these sort of combinations you can use with those cards, and then all of a sudden that one movement each turn turns into, like I said, the trajectory of one to five by the time you get to the end of the game, and you can really see that when you look at the board afterwards and you see your like tents huddled up, and then they start to separate, and then they're like
Yeah.
long distances after that, right? So
And not only is there terrain that you have to maneuver around, but there are various bonus spaces on the board. So you if you end your turn on one space, you might get to draw extra cards, or you get a crate, which is like a tile with bonuses printed on the back, and you pick one at random basically, and you get whatever it has, or a fruit. And if you get a fruit, you can put it on a card or an action space, I should say, and then whatever the printed value of that action space is, it's one or more on the die to take that
yeah,
action if you
yeah.
put a fruit down. And then some cards will score you points for every fruit that you have or for every crate that you gather, right? So there's lots of things on there that will drive you to make those vertical movements. And
Yeah.
so you're spending your actions doing that, which is again not moving you across the board, but up the board.
Yeah, I really like even stuff like tent placement. There's cards that you'll earn more points for specific terrain that you have tents on, or if you're have tents on the towers, there's tower locations. The tower locations are neat too because they allow you to draw at the end of the turn. You draw three cards, and so it's really essentially like, okay, I'm drawing three cards. That's a gold if I want to trade that in, or that's three food if I want to trade it in for food, right? So yeah, all these like small little things, but in order to get to that tower, I have to do more of a, vertical movement and then to the right instead of just straight across the board. And so
Yeah.
there's all the, yeah, tons of trade-offs that you have to make with this game on how you're going to kind of progress forward, right? And yeah, and I mean, with it being Ryan Laukat, all the artwork is very much in his style, which is which pretty great. I really like his art style. I
Me too.
like this Arzium world. And just a feeling, everything from like even components wise for this game, like the tents are the same tents you get in Near and Far. You get like a little caravan um, trailer sort of thing. I guess it's just called a caravan.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
a covered wagon.
yeah, covered wagon meeple that you
Yeah.
move across, and yeah, it really feel. And then yeah, you're meeting Toes folk, and I think the one that allowed me to copy an action was like the oil lady, which is a lady that was like in up above and below. You can meet in one of the encounters and that kind of thing. So it's all these like sort of like callbacks to his various games and just beautiful artwork as well. And it's just this one's just a fun one to play. That's not yeah, like I said, it was just nice to relax, after, working and then sit down, have a good not too brain burny time, but
Yeah.
still enough there that there was enough to like, think about your turns and plan things out and whatever. And yeah, I really like this one. It's one that I'm surprised we hadn't got to previously on the in some of our past seasons, but just I think you gifted me this one, and I think just the way our hiatuses line up, we just haven't talked about this. And I was going
Yeah.
through the list and was like, oh, it's a shame we haven't talked about this one yet. We gotta make a play of it and get it on the podcast, right? So.
I think this was our third play together. And then you've
Yeah.
played solo, I'm sure, many
Yeah,
more
and the solo
times.
holds up really well too. So you're really, if I remember correctly, because I haven't played solo in a bit, but it's essentially you're playing against your own score, right? So trying to score as high as you can. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. Like you're doing the same thing, and like you said, multiplayer solitaire. So it's just without the multiplayer, it's just a solitaire, right? And it's a fun one, right? You're trying to combo, and when things go how you like them, that's great. And when they don't, it's like, oh, how can I get out of this kind of mess, right? Um, but yeah, I really enjoy this one, and yeah, I'm excited to play it some more, and happy to bring it onto the podcast, right, and YouTube channel.
And that wraps up another episode of the Current Plays podcast. Check us out next week on YouTube or your favorite podcast provider. But until then, good gaming and good night.
Good night, folks.